Hello friends, happy Friday. I hope you are doing really well. I want to talk to you today about this pretty big subject. I actually have two pretty heavy topics that are on my heart that I want to talk about, but I'm going to split it up into 2 weeks. So today I want to talk to you about something that I feel is a huge epidemic, a pandemic bigger than what we have experienced this year. And this is this phenomenon of spiritual poverty. So what is spiritual poverty? It basically means a lack of spirituality. And already I know I have lost some of you who are starting to watch this because you may be thinking, what does spirituality have to do with health? And I want to remind you, in case you don't know, that holistic health means to be whole. That means to place equal emphasis on body, our energy, our emotions, and our spiritual life. So these all need to be cohesive. We need to place importance on all of them to be truly healthy. And the big problem with this then is when we lose touch with this spiritual connection, we are losing part of ourselves. And so I will get deeper into that, but this really came up from an experience I had earlier this week that made me a little sad. And I'm not just going to be complaining about this, but if you find yourself that you are experiencing this as well, I want to give you some solutions here at the end to bring you back, to really try to foster this connection with yourself and this higher connection. So I don't remember when it was earlier this week, but I had the luxury of sleeping in. And then when I woke up, I sat up in bed and started meditating. And I had the thought, oh, I want to get my mala beads, which I hadn't used for a really long time. So these are mala beads. In case you don't know, it's not just decoration. There's 108 beads on a chain, and you place a mantra or a prayer into each one. And there's a common mantra that I use to Ganesha, which I consider an aspect of myself. So I want to get into that too, that I am not particularly religious, but have studied aspects of many religions. And this is what I bring into my spiritual practice. So when I am doing this mantra to Ganesha, it's bringing intention to this aspect of myself that is discerning. So it's helping me to live consciously throughout the day. And Ganesha is considered the remover of obstacles. So this is bringing more insight into my awareness to those places where I'm living that aren't serving me. So it's really helping me let go of things that I might find myself clinging to. And when I do this practice, when I chant 108 times this mantra, which is Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha, that it starts off my day in a very, very wonderful way. And so then I was thinking, after I did this, I was just sitting and just felt this overwhelming sense of disappointment that I had lost this practice somehow. I don't know if I felt I didn't have enough time for it, but it's okay. You know, I brought it back and was sitting with it even more, and then just this cascade of thoughts and emotions about how this is really happening everywhere. I mean, it's happening to me, and here I'm aware of it. So it is definitely happening to other people unconsciously. And so I was thinking about how this practice is so important to me, and yet I'm afraid to share it. And how chanting used to be important to me in teaching yoga. And here these days I feel uncomfortable even chanting the sound Om, which I always have to explain is simply the sound of the universe. It's this hum that the earth makes. And so just this constant need to explain, to make it make sense to people in order for them to accept it. And I feel like I've just let that all go Not just because it's not as accepted, but because maybe I want to please everyone and not make some people feel uncomfortable. And I certainly don't want to feel uncomfortable teaching that, right? And yeah, so I just started thinking about all of that and how it's just been a bit lost. And it's certainly been lost with yoga because yoga has changed. There's a bigger emphasis on the body, not as much with even the breath. For some, that is an important part of the practice, but with some, it's really just a hybrid of exercise right now. But always looking at the emotions, at our thoughts, our intention is huge with any yoga practice. And so if you have studied with me, you know that that is an important part I always try to bring in, but I could be doing so much better. And so why is this a problem, this letting go of this depth of spirituality? Like I said, when we are letting this connection rot away, we are losing part of ourselves. And this seems to be happening, that as we're losing this spiritual connection, it's because we are bringing in a stronger connection to the intellectuals and to science. So here again, I may lose some of you. Please stay on and be patient with me because I studied science. I have a degree in molecular biology. I love biology because it is the study of life, and that in itself is deeply spiritual. And I was very lucky to have a few teachers who really touched me in my heart when I studied with them. And even going back, I was just telling my son about this. Even my 6th grade teacher, I would hang out in his really creepy lab that had all these jarred specimens and everything, and I was so fascinated. And he was super into showing me everything because, in 6th grade, there weren't that many people interested in science. And then I was telling my son about this other teacher I had in junior college. So I went to Ohlone College in Fremont before I went to San Jose State. And Dr. Quinta was his name, and he also had a really big impression on me. And I remember that he was teaching about something, and someone asked, why? Why is this happening in the body or with whatever? And he was like, we never answer the question why. That's not up to biologists. That's a spiritual question. And again, I was super touched by that. And he's like, we can explain what is happening and how it's happening. And even with that, it's always changing. We're always keeping the mind curious, always looking into different theories, but we never ask why. We let the mystery be. And so, again, just so lucky that I had that training, even in my science education. And then when I studied yoga, I come from a deeply spiritual practice too, that my teacher was very big into chanting as well. I didn't know anything about it. I just knew that I liked her and I was open to it, and it made sense to me in my being, not just in my mind, but with how I felt, that I felt more secure within myself. And it wasn't because I was just believing everything she was saying. It was this inner knowing, this deeper experience. So, I'm trying to articulate this in a very thorough way here. So again, stay with me, please. So yeah, I'm seeing that as we're placing more emphasis, especially these days, on intellectuals, on science, we're doing so because we don't know ourselves. Okay? We've lost this spiritual connection that keeps us tethered to our present moment experience, that keeps us secure with our decisions, with this gut knowing. And so we're letting these people say, no, you need to do it this way. And if you don't, it's because you're stupid. They don't say that, but you should be trusting these people instead, because this is what they studied and they know more than you. That's the message behind what they're saying. And I was trying to think of why this isn't affecting me so much. I don't really care what people are saying. I'm going to make my own decisions. And it's because I know myself. And even with that, there's still room for me to grow. Like I was just saying, there's still a deeper connection I need to be making. But it's very important to keep this connection so we're not taken advantage of, that we're not pawns in these political games and pulled by special interest groups and really being gaslighted, that if we have this experience, we're not supposed to believe what we're experiencing. We're supposed to follow this narrative instead. And if we don't, we're a conspiracy theorists. We just don't know enough about it. Just be quiet. You don't know. That authoritarian parental energy that hopefully you didn't experience. I did. Maybe that's another reason this doesn't affect me, because I'm an adult. This doesn't bother me anymore because no one's going to treat me that way. So I also feel like there's also all this trauma that people are dealing with because they haven't solved it on a spiritual level. So how can we come back? How can we bring that connection back? The first thing, with anything is to recognize that it's happening. So if this is triggering you at all, you're seeing some resonance there, right? We all have a greater connection we can be making. So you may just want to sit with this. Where are certain areas where you're letting go of your personal power that might be connected to your soul? So I truly believe we are spiritual beings having a physical experience. Is that something you believe too? Sit with that. See if that makes sense. See if you can really articulate that. And then to bring in the practices that are going to help foster that connection. So, of course, you can be practicing yoga with me. I am trying to bring that back. Thank you, Anna. I am really trying to bring that back because I have been teaching at a health club where the people who are following me don't have a practice like I do. So I'm trying to share more of this practice with them. And those who are following me, I know are receptive. So I'm just giving them little bits here and there of how they can trust themselves more with these deeper practices. I have Ivy here behind me, giving me a little courage to bring this message home. So you could be taking my weekly yoga classes. I also have a 6-week program, yoga and self-healing practices, which really goes deep. So I work with the koshas, the layers of the being in this course. So working from the physical into the mental, energetic, emotional, into the spiritual core of our being. And there's less and less guidance from me as we go on. I'm giving you suggestions throughout, but really that spiritual piece is something that comes from within you as you deepen your practice. Again, no one can tell you what that is. It is your own experience, but there's this framework for you to explore that. So let me know if you want any more information on that. And then when you sit with your meditations, what I've been sitting with lately, and this may appeal to you more if you don't have a religion that you can go in deeper to, if you don't have a yogic practice, even with meditation, I know is hard to sometimes get off the ground, but I've been really trying to tap into this idea of a higher self. So this may be more attractive to you. Thinking of your more evolved self, where you are going, because people naturally evolve. What keeps us stuck is when we start to doubt ourselves, when we start to lose that connection and look outward for solutions. If we keep ourselves open and curious, there is this evolution that happens, and that's where we gain all this wisdom in our later years, hopefully, that we can then pass on to future generations, right? We'll hope to be that elder that can pass on this information. But if you start to get into these rabbit holes of quantum physics and how time is not linear, how it's cyclical, or even just not really there could be this future version of yourself influencing you now. And even yourself in this moment influencing your past self. So it's really trippy to think about. And you may just want to sit with that as you're sitting and breathing in this body, you're tapping into this higher version of yourself. And just your way of being is going to be completely different. So again, this is all a process. It's not like you're going to do one of these practices and snap, you have this greater connection. But I'm hoping that something here might help build some intrigue that you're going to stick with and hopefully get a bigger experience later. So the biggest message I want to bring home here is that you should stay open and curious and really follow this. Follow your inner knowing. Please do not follow someone outside of you, especially another person who is just figuring things out for themselves. And there is no one in the government right now who I feel is a mentor that way. I don't look to them as a moral compass. And I feel like when people are doing that with politicians, then I do feel that they're truly lost. So let me know what you think about this. Let me know if there's something that you are doing that is helping you with your spiritual practice. So I was going to mention that, of course, being out in nature is really huge to foster the spiritual connection too. But that's what I'm going to be talking about next week, because that is also a really, really big subject that I want to go much, much deeper with you than I ever had. So thank you, friends, for staying on with me here, and I hope you have a wonderful weekend. I will see you again next week. Take care.